Welcome to Organizational Behavior. I'm your online instructor, Diana Block, and this is the spring 2015 quarter. And I'm excited to work with you. There's some very interesting topics in this class that we're going to cover, and I believe that we'll have some really good discussion in addition to the assignments that you're going to complete being very varied and challenging for you to really think about organizational behavior. Before we get into that, let me go ahead and cover a couple of housekeeping items. I do want to point out the late work policy to everyone so that we know up front what can be expected. There is no late work accepted in the class, so I encourage you to go ahead and look through the syllabus, make plans if there's weeks that you're going to be out of town or traveling or have anything come up. And I encourage you to work ahead as far as doing your reading and being prepared with your studying for your quizzes in advance. Do as much as you can as early in the week as possible so that we don't have any issues with work not being turned in on time, since there isn't any late work accepted in this class. And so I just want you all to be aware of that going forward. Also, there are multiple ways to contact me. If you look in the instructor area of the course, you'll see my telephone number and my email address, and you can feel free to use those if you want to contact me about the assignments or the requirements or discuss any issues at all related to your enrollment in this course. We are using a textbook that is online, so if you have any trouble accessing the online textbook, make sure we get that resolved as early as possible in the quarter. Give me a call or contact technical support to work through that, because we are going to do a lot of reading and most of our discussion is going to come out of information we found in the textbook. So let's talk about organizational behavior. And it's exactly what it sounds like, behavior within organizations. Most of us belong to some organization or another. We're all a part of the school in some role, so the school is an organization that we're a part of. If we have employers, those are organizations. Your son's or daughter's Boy Scout or Girl Scout troop is an organization. When you've got a group of people that are working together, they have some sort of common goal that unites them, they are an organization. And so we all are a part of them in one way or the other. So when we look at specifically an organization, that we're going to assume we're talking about a business that we work for, since that's the focus of your business degree or the business related courses. We're looking at organizations that we're going to start as a business owner or that we're going to work for. And it is really a system. We've got a system where we take inputs and process it in our organization, and that gives us outputs. So whether we're a manufacturing firm and we're taking raw materials and processing it within our organization, and then out pops our output, which might be a car or a cheeseburger from McDonald's or clothing or some legal services, whatever it is our company is providing. We're taking raw input, which that input could be raw materials, it could be the intelligence and innovation of the employees, it could be just plain old manual labor. But we take those inputs and we process them, and then our firm gives us some outputs. And then we also have feedback about the output that comes from our customers, from our other stakeholders, from the community, from even the employees. We get inputs and feedback, and then we incorporate that feedback into our next round of input, and we start the cycle over again. So that's what we're doing all day long. Whatever our job is, we're going through this cycle of taking inputs and processing it into outputs. So when you read chapter 1, you're going to read about systems theory and why organizations are considered systems, and how that can help you to understand how organizations work, to look at them as a system. And the text is going to discuss the fact that a system can be open or closed. So with an open system, this means that inputs are easily absorbed from inside and outside the organization. So this organization has boundaries that allow information to go in and out. So it's a learning process constantly because they are able to gain more information from their outside of the organization, and the outside of the organization is able to learn more about the organization because information is going both ways, in and out. Now, in a closed system, you see it's over here by itself. There's no information flowing back and forth. In a closed system, the information flow is restricted. So, inside company information stays inside the company. People outside may not understand a lot about what's going on inside the firm because it's a closed system and information doesn't flow out. Now, the organization might also not know a lot about its surroundings and its environment or its stakeholders because it does not absorb information from outside of the firm. So it's just a closed off system and information isn't flowing. So organizations can be either one of these, and it can be either one of these in relative degrees. A system can be mainly open but still have certain things restricted, or a system could be basically restricted but able to absorb some information. So we're going to look at that in degrees. Something else you're going to look at in chapter 1 is the characteristics of modern organizations. So there's several of them given in chapter 1, but modern organizations, we're talking about companies that are thriving today, have some things that are generally in common, such as the fact that they rely on teams. They do some innovative recruiting to try to retain and attract valuable workers. They do a lot of things with organizational design, like total quality management. So, we're going to look at some of these factors in chapter 1 and see how modern organizations are using these things to increase their effectiveness. So this next slide starts to talk about chapter 2. I'm going to go ahead and move into chapter 2. Chapter 1 is just kind of introductory chapter that explains what organizational behavior is and why it applies to organizations and how it will help you in your career. So it's kind of an introductory chapter, but there is some very good information there. When we get over to chapter 2, though, we're going to start digging into personality. And personality is important when we're studying organizational behavior because who is it that's behaving in organizations? People. And organizations are made up with lots of different people. We've got a lot of diversity. And so we're going to encounter various personalities. And our text tells us that personality has two different places where it originates. Is a combination of these factors that create your personality. There's some genetic factors that you were born with, your intelligence, your general subjective well-being, or your happiness. Some people call that your mood or temperament. And some of those things are just natural to you. People will say you've been that way since you were a child. It's just part of who you are. Then you've also got some environmental factors like peer group influences, the culture of the society in which you were raised, also things that you've experienced. And so those things will also contribute to how you view things, how you react to things, and so that becomes part of your personality as well. And so in chapter 2, they're going to talk about personality tests and how they're used in organizations to increase effectiveness. And some of the personality tests that they talk about include the locus of control. And the locus of control is the extent to which a person believes they can control events that affect them. So it kind of measures, for lack of a better word, a person's feelings or not, or lack of feelings of hopelessness. You know, some people feel like I can control what happens around me. I, based on how I react to things, I can control my destiny. And some people kind of have a feeling that no matter what I do, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So what's the point? And then there's people that are somewhere in between. Well, that talks about your locus of control, the extent to which you believe you can control the events that affect you. And there's tests that will help you identify your locus of control. And different types of people obviously will fit into different positions. So that's just why some companies will use these kind of tests. The Big Five personality profile is another personality test discussed in chapter 2. And it breaks down the whole personality into separate five major personality traits. And so the five traits that you're going to read about in chapter 2 that are part of the big five is your level of extroversion and energy. That's one. Your adventurousness versus being traditional. That's two. Agreeableness versus tough mindedness is the third one. Conscientiousness versus undirected is four. And the last one is emotionality versus stability. So the Big Five profile breaks personality up into those five traits and helps you to get a complete picture of a person's personality. Several of you have probably heard of the Myers-Briggs test. This is a common test that has been given through a lot of employers. And that test's claim to fame has been the ability to find a good fit between a personality and a job. So the Myers-Briggs is supposed to indicate what kind of a person would do best in a particular job and what kind of a job you as your with your particular personality would do best in. So you're going to read about those and other personality tests as you go through chapter 2. In chapter 2, they're also going to talk about some of the attitude and environmental factors that relate to effectiveness on a job. You're going to see a lot of information there. Some of it may include things like job involvement. Job involvement is a belief that you have a relationship between your performance on your job and your self-worth. So when there's a strong connection between how you perform in your job and how you feel about yourself, that's called job involvement. And then we've got work centrality. This is the importance of work in someone's life compared with other activities. We've all met people or known of people that we called workaholics, where it seemed that work was the most important thing in that person's life and everything else paled in comparison to work. This is what we're talking about with the concept of work centrality. And we also have a term called job satisfaction that we talk about. And this is a person's positive or negative evaluation of their job, how they feel about the actual work that they're doing. You're going to read about organizational commitment. This is a person's emotional attachment to or their actual ability to identify with the organization. So lots of good stuff in chapter 2. That's just a taste of what you're going to read about there. And I look forward to talking about a lot of this in discussion. We only have 15 minutes in this video, but during the discussion this week, we can talk about more of these items as they come up. We do have assignments that will cover both chapters 1 and chapter 2. At the end of each chapter, there's an article that you're going to be assigned to read, and it is in the Unit 1 assignment. You can put both of those responses into one file. You don't need to use two separate files to upload. But you're going to make sure that you're using specific concepts and terminology from those chapters to answer the questions. So we want to see a lot of vocabulary, so to speak, a lot of terminology, concepts, specifics from the chapter to answer the article questions that you're going to be given in your assignment. Time is just about up, so I do want to go ahead and sign off. And if you have any questions about the information, feel free to give me an email or call me if you choose. And also feel free to ask questions in the discussion area about the class material. I look forward to talking with you again and have a great week.